Svårigheten med den långa processen att bygga en hamn är att fånga upp den utveckling som sker inom sjötrafiken med större fartyg och ny teknik. Och det är någonting vi har lyckats väl med här i Norvik.
Det kommer fartyg som är ungefär 30% större och då måste vi ha mera yta och därför passar det jättebra att vi hamnar här. Det är en fantastisk möjlighet för framtiden här att utveckla vår verksamhet in till baltiska regionen.
Största fördelen med att vi har byggt en hamn just här i Norvik, det är den korta inseglingen och möjligheten att kunna ta emot de allra största fartygen som kan gå in i Östersjön. Det ger en skalfördel som är stor nytta till att ge kostnadseffektiva transporter till och från storstadsregionen.
Welcome to this online interview by Project Cargo Weekly. Our special guest of honor today is Mr. Johan Wallen. He's the Chief Commercial Officer at the Port of Stockholm here in Sweden. First and foremost, Johan, very welcome to this interview.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Johan, I always allow my interviewees, for starters, in order so that our viewers get to know them, allow them to elaborate a little bit about their career and how they got into shipping. How come you're not sitting in a bank or in an accountancy firm? Why are you in shipping?
That's a very good question. I think I got into this crazy business mainly due to that my father was in the business. He's, originally a sea captain, but went ashore and worked with the great shipping lines of Sweden at those days, Johnson Line and Salén Shipping, and so on. So that's why I think I got into this business to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Then we can talk about that after the interview. It seems your dad and my dad have something in similar because my father used to sail for Johnson Line too.
All right, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, especially in Sweden, when it's still. I mean, they are now, getting fewer and fewer, I guess. But there are still some people in the business that started their career in those companies.
Exactly, very reputable company it was. Right. The Port of Stockholm, I mean, everyone knows Stockholm as the Venice of the North and a beautiful city and the capital of Sweden. But from a shipping standpoint, can you elaborate on the status here at 2023? There are different ports in the Stockholm area. Elaborate a little bit for our viewers so they get to know that we are more than cruise ships.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, we are operating 4 ports, basically ports of Stockholm, you usually say. So in the north we have Kapellskär, which is a very important ro-ro port to especially Finland and the North Baltic.
Okay.
And then we have the city center of Stockholm, where we have several ports actually, and many of those are predominantly focusing on the passenger traffic, which is really important for us. We usually say that we are the world's biggest passenger port, actually. A normal year, now it hasn't been that normal for a couple of years, but a normal year we have about 16 million passengers.
16
million. So that's, of course, it's very important, and this traffic and the ferries going to Finland and the Baltic states are really important for us, and that is predominantly still going in the city center of Stockholm, the terminals we have in here. And then we have Nynäshamn in the south, where is both a passenger and a cargo port with important traffic to the island of Gotland, and also to Poland. And we have had also started a new service to Rostock earlier, but that has just paused, unfortunately. And then, of course, we have our newest port, which is Stockholm Norvik Port, which is opened in 2020, which is mainly a cargo port with a container terminal operated by Hutchison, and then a ro-ro terminal operated by us. And now Stena Line is the main customer for that port. So that's a little bit on what Stockholm is. And on top of that, we also have other segments like the inner city ports. We still are under our control is the nice quays alongside in the city center of Stockholm, which is not really focusing on cargo and passengers, not so much anymore, but there are other businesses going on there. But I mean, I think in many other ports, those services are kept by other authorities in the city, but we still do that in the ports of Stockholm. And then we also have a lot of real estate. In actually 30% of our revenue comes from the buildings that we still have, especially in this city center and the free port of Stockholm, where I'm sitting right now.
Okay, it's quite impressive when you see it separately. You feel, oh, it's nothing big, but when you add it all up, it's quite an impressive portfolio here with a ferry, cargo, ro-ro, and not to mention, of course, 16 million passengers. I mean, that's an incredible amount of people. I suppose these ferries, they also take cargo and trailers, all of them, don't they?
Exactly, and I mean, we are, I think, number 3, the third biggest cargo port in Sweden. But I mean, with about 9 million tons of cargo each year, but the majority of that is going on ro-ro and ferry vessels. So that's really important. I mean, they are like the bridge over the Baltic states between our countries, and we feel that service is, I mean, even more important right now when situation, how it looks with our important neighbors on the other side of the Baltic.
Yes, I fully understand. Okay, so Johan, with all this ferry activity, have you seen, of course, Corona put a damper on most of that, but with the ro-ro lines that you have and the new container terminal, Hutchison Port, which is, of course, a very reputable name, I understand that you are the only, let's say, major deep sea port with really major ship-to-shore cranes in Norvik. I mean, you can take the mega ships in there, can't you?
Yes, and we're really happy that we have this partnership with Hutchison. Because they have been really able to invest in that terminal in a fantastic way, and we are with the natural depth of that port with 16.5 meters. We can accommodate. I mean, all the vessels that can come into the Baltic Sea. And with their cranes, they have installed super Panamax cranes in there. So I think that's really important.
And for our viewers, that is the picture you have as background here, where we see from above, I guess, a drone picture with it two post Panamax cranes here and the fairway there where the sun is setting. It's really very close to the fairway of the Baltic Sea. So hopefully Gothenburg will get some competition, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
How about connectivity to and from? If we take Norvik, of course, Norvik can speak for themselves, but I'm sure you know it anyhow. How about connectivity to and from Norvik? Is there a rail connection? You know, everyone talks green nowadays. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, we invested in 4 kilometers of railway tracks, and that's a bit unusual for. Yeah, usually it's the state or a national level that you invest in such a long railroad, but we connected to the natural railway system to Norway, and that, as you said, is really crucial thing for the future, not only for the container business, but we also see a bigger demand also for in the road for Stena Line, who's trafficking there, that more and more trailers are being lifted off the road and to the railway.
Yeah.
So I think that's getting more and more important for every year to come now.
Yeah, it seems to be a good investment. I also understood from one of your colleagues recently that you just offloaded a very heavy transformer recently arriving by rail. I think it was a couple of days ago only. So it's really good for, I mean, I like you, I live in the Stockholm area, and of course I'm as proud as you are to see that things are moving ahead and finally getting let's say, the speed that it deserves. What do you do in ways of marketing? I mean, how do you make sure to get your name out and about as a Port of Stockholm?
First of all, when it comes to the container business, and Hutchison is really important there, because that's also why we decided to work together with Hutchison, with their reputation and their network on an international level. So that's really, really important. But when it comes to our other businesses, it's really important that we try to promote ourselves both to the ro-ro lines, the ferry lines, and we are really working hard together with the city of Stockholm together with there's a sister company called Visit Stockholm. When it comes to the passenger segments, we are present in all these. I mean, cruise fares that are available. Two of my colleagues are right now at the fair in the Mediterranean called Shipax. A lot of the ro-ro and ferry industries is present.
Yes.
So
no, I think that's a wise move. I mean, there's so much competition nowadays. You have to tell people that you are here, and I suppose also the customers. I mean, Stockholm is the capital, is the major area of Sweden. It's a huge import market. I suppose you also need to tell whoever imports to the greater Stockholm region that they can use Norvik. They don't have to think Gothenburg all the time and so on, right?
Yeah, and I think that's also really important for what you usually are talking about, namely the project cargo and break bulk segments. I think with the new capacity that we have built in Norvik, but not only there, but also Kapellskär, we have expanded the capacity, and also with the Värta port inside the city center, we have more capacity now also to offer to the market, and that's not only for the ferry and container market, but we see a possibility for project cargoes and break bulk cargo in our various port areas, and that's the good thing with Stockholm. We can be flexible. As I mentioned, we have these 4 ports, and we can offer these really great quays in very close to the city center of Stockholm as well. That we use, let's say, half of the year for the cruise ships. But it means that we have open capacity, let's say, especially in the winter times, to use that for other commodities, and especially for the break bulk segments.
Yes, I have noticed, and I've been in port myself to see a couple of COSCO ships. I mean, the state shipping line of China coming in with prefab housing modules, and to see that coming into, say, downtown Stockholm, only a stone throw away from where people are living in their apartments. It's pretty impressive to see. So I agree with you. You have it all. It's just a matter of waking up the world to tell them that we have it.
But I think that's the case now. When we have more capacity and we have more to offer, we we try to show that we are open for business.
Yeah.
And we have that unique selling point that you can go very close to the city center, and Stockholm and the Stockholm region is one of the fastest growing regions in the world.
Right.
And also for it's growing very fast, and especially for housing modules and building materials and stuff like that, we have the possibility, and there the customers can choose both Norvik for those I mean south of Stockholm,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have other destinations that are more to the city center, we have keys to offer there, and then to the north with Kapellskär and so on. So I think that's our main selling point, that we have this flexibility and many keys to offer.
Yeah. How can you elaborate a bit? I don't know whether you know it, but perhaps you have some idea. I mean, Sweden has, give or take, 11 million inhabitants, I suppose. And how big of a percentage of the Swedish total economy would you say that Stockholm and the greater Stockholm region and the cities beyond, suburbs and whatnot, is responsible for? How big is it, to have our viewers understand?
We usually say that almost half of Sweden's consumption is consumed here in the Stockholm region. So
Wow.
So you have actually possibility to reach almost 50% of Swedish GDP through our ports.
Wow.
Yeah, that's I think really important. But what we try to combine, we have been and really big on the import side, which is great for a port in Sweden, because usually we have an imbalance on the other way, because we are really big on the export. The export industry in Sweden is really big. And we have the opposite, and we see that as a great opportunity where you can combine and with export markets as well, and especially with Norvik and with the railway connections, you can use, let's say, the empty container equipment that is naturally
Coming in,
and you can use that for the Swedish export industry. And now we have the capacity to do that, which we didn't have before when we used to have the container terminal in the city center. So that's a great opportunity.
And I suppose that there's a lot of development. Sweden is a very, shall we say, long country, and Stockholm is not even in the middle. And I'm coming from Denmark. You know, in my country, you drive 2 hours and you're in Germany. So I have to get used to how big Sweden is. So do you see that the northern part of Sweden, I mean, north of here, Sundsvall and up, could that be a potential market for Stockholm as an export hub, do you think?
Absolutely. I think the combination of, because we see that from import customers, they really need the fast transit times and want to come as close to the market as possible. But when it comes to the export cargoes in Sweden, it's not. I mean, it's mainly forest industry and paper, pulp, and steel industry. Of course, time is an essence, but I think that's a great opportunity to offer services and cost-efficient services for the export industry, which is maybe not that transit time sensitive as for the imports that we normally have.
Right. And with
so
your,
yes, I think also with the combination of and we see more and more in demand for that.
And with your rail connection, you can keep the, let's say, the sustainable goals. I mean, the fashion word, as you know, nowadays everything is sustainable. So you can keep that by railing it down and then out by sea from Norvik or other of your ports, for example.
Yeah, and another thing, last week actually there was a railway service going to Norway started. So you can actually connect to the Oslo fjord directly to Norwik, and we didn't see that coming. That's something that has developed as demand for let's say greener transport, and then the Stena Line services, Ro-Ro services that usually went through our ports and with trailers and trucks all the way. You could actually book a trailer from either Ventspils with Stena Line, and it can end up in Oslo without any drivers or anything. In these days, with the lack of truck drivers and everything, it's a great advantage. And of course, the environmental thing, of course, that you can ship it without a truck all the way.
Yeah. No, I think you are well positioned, and once the shippers start putting, let's say, the money where the mouth is, and not only talk green but also do green, then I think you are really in the right position with your location, and ultimately you may be the winner. I mean, with all that you can offer. Did the Corona situation impact the Port of Stockholm a lot? I suppose 16 million passengers to close to zero in a couple of years. That must have been a huge backlash, I suppose.
Absolutely. I think basically overnight, 70% of our passengers disappeared. And with that, almost 30% of our revenue, more or less. So that was, of course, very difficult for us, and especially for the Finland ferry traffic, and it was really tough for our customers there. But what we managed to do is to keep the ports open, and especially since those ferries are really important for not only passengers but for cargo. Some of our customers choose to shift, so they didn't go into the city center but used one of our outports, Kapellskär or Norvik, when the passengers were low. So we're really happy that we could offer other alternatives for them when they were lacking passengers, and by doing that they could still have a reliable service, and so that was really important. And also the cruise ships, actually we had cruise ships coming to Stockholm even in the pandemic. We tried to keep the port open, and when it was the most problematic, we had these scenic cruises where the cruise passengers didn't disembark, but they stayed aboard and still could they could
see the view.
Yes. Exactly.
No, but how would you say if we're all happy that Corona's finally kind of disappeared? How many cruise vessels, which of course generates income also ashore, how many would you say you have in a normal good year in your beautiful city?
We had for 2020 we had more than 300 calls booked. So that was supposed to be a record for 2020, and then we knew what happened. So I don't remember exactly. I think we had like 30 still of these other calls in 2020. But so a normal year, we have close to 300 calls.
Okay, and can you feel that you are on upward trajectory again? Is it coming back again now?
It is coming back, but also unfortunately the political situation and with a full-scale war in the Ukraine has unfortunately hit our industry, especially in the Baltic Sea. And that has to do with mainly St. Petersburg has been a really important destination in the Baltic Sea for the cruise lines. And that when that gone now, it's not as attractive. It hasn't been as attractive anymore to go to the Baltic States or the Baltic Sea. But we are actually working together now with Helsinki and Tallinn and Riga to build a package so that the cruise ships see that it is really interesting to go into the Baltic Sea, that we can offer a lot here, even without St. Petersburg.
Definitely. It seems that Russia in many ways is certainly off the grid now for years to come if they don't change, and it doesn't seem like it. Okay, Johan, that's very interesting, and I must say, really appreciate your clear and concise answers to my questions here. I think we both are proud to live in this great city here, so I'm only happy that we in Project Cargo Weekly can help to spread the word. I want to say formally, Johan, many thanks for taking your time for this interview.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are most welcome. And to all our listeners, viewers, and readers from around the world, this was yet another great interview by Project Cargo Weekly. Our special guest of honor today has been Mr. Johan Wallen, Chief Commercial Officer at the ports of Stockholm in Sweden. A very nice gentleman, and he has had a very nice story to tell. So do come and visit Stockholm, Sweden in the future. For me, thank you very much. And in case you want to see more about Project Cargo Weekly, stay tuned to our channel in the future. Thank you.